Benjamin Preston is with Consumer Reports. They just did a very interesting article on how car dealers are having to change with this coronavirus quarantine going on all around the country. And Benjamin, first of all, great to have you here. And talk us through a little bit about what you found in your article.
Well, I found that online sales and home deliveries are really nothing new. What has really happened here is that the coronavirus and, people are wanting to stay away from dealerships because of it. It's really kind of accelerated the online sales model because, traditionally car dealerships have wanted to get consumers into the dealership because they want to get people in, have them face to face where they can kind of do the upsell, and they can upsell in a number of ways, either model or option specific stuff or with financing. And I think consumers, from what I found from the people I talked to, consumers have sort of been moving in the direction of doing a lot of research online first anyway. And this has sort of pushed a lot of dealers who weren't already doing it into that direction just out of necessity.
Yeah. In fact, I was fascinated to find in your article something like 15% of sales have already been conducted online.
I think the numbers vary depending upon who you talk to. I mean, anywhere from 10 to 20%. But I think 15 was probably the good middle number there. It was significant. And I talked to a number of dealerships that had been doing online sales already and had worked on their mobile platforms and all that kind of stuff. So people could shop on their phones, which is kind of how you buy everything else anyway.
Yeah. What have you found in talking to dealers in their openness to going this way? Because like you say, they always want you to come in. They never want to quote any price on the phone or anything like that. They want bodies in the dealership showroom. So how open are they going to be to having to change?
I think regardless of their proclivities, they want to sell cars. And right now, that's the way they're doing it because foot traffic has fallen to practically zero. I mean, it depends on the state and the locality and all that, but a lot of states have shut down dealerships, or dealerships just aren't open because they're not getting foot traffic because people are afraid of the virus.
What's this contactless delivery? You go through the details of that.
I think it really varies case by case, but basically you can have the car delivered to you. They'll wipe it down and then leave the papers somewhere, or they will have already mailed the papers to you to sign, because most states require I don't even know about most states, but a lot of states require a wet signature, which is an actual physical signature. I mean, you this way you don't have to go to the dealership and interact with anybody. Someone physically drops the car off at your house.
Yeah, that's interesting what you mean about a physical signature. I think you're right. And I don't know the 50 different states' regulations and all that. But if you can buy a home using digital signatures, one would think you could do that with cars as well.
I mean, it all comes down to regulations at the state level.
Yeah. And have you talked to anybody, any dealers or consumers or anybody? What's the process like? How are people reacting to it?
I think that based on what I've heard, based on my conversations with dealers, they've had a lot of positive feedback, because basically the customer is going to research the cars that they want, what they're interested, what they're looking for. They can narrow down a lot of things, with those build configurators and all that sort of stuff. They can come in maybe and test drive the car. Although I will say some dealerships now are doing at-home test drives. They'll actually bring the car to your house. Not all of them, but some of them are getting into that because, like I said, they want to sell cars. And then, once they figure out all the finance, you can do the financing online too. So basically every step of the process is online. And then the only physical part is the signature, if it's required, if you can't do online signatures, and then the delivery of the car.
Yeah, one of the number one complaints of car buyers is how long they have to stay at the dealership just to go through all the paperwork. And And dealers, a lot of them, maybe not all of them, but have been trying to encourage people to do all the online or all the financing online just to limit the amount of time they got to spend at the dealership. So this would seem to play right into that.
One of my sources said that their customers, once you do it this way, you'll never go back to the dealership way, because virtually nobody wants to go to the car dealership anyway. Everybody's researching cars online anyway. It's a good way to sort of, because nobody wants to go into the dealership, all moon-faced, like, oh, cars, what am I looking for? No, they want to have a good idea of what they want first.
Yeah, absolutely right. Most consumers do all the research online, not in the dealership showroom. Now they can do all their F&I online. Tesla, of course, has been doing it this way. Is this the way that you think it's going to go for franchise dealers?
I don't think franchise dealers will be cut out of the equation.
No, I didn't mean that. Of course, they will not be, because the laws of the nation are such that
Sure.
Traditional automakers are stuck with them. But I'm just wondering if traditional dealers are going to start to operate much more like Tesla stores.
It seems so. Yeah, I think that in the future it's going to definitely speed into that direction much more quickly. One of my sources said we're 5 years in the future today. I mean, it just happened overnight just because of the coronavirus.
How about for used cars? Because a used car, it's not as easy to go shop for as a new one. I mean, new ones, supposedly they're all the same, right? Unless they have different trim levels and options and things like that. But a used car, you want to know what the so-called representation is. Is it really what the seller is describing it to be?
Right. I look at new cars as being kind of a two-dimensional thing. And then used cars, it just opens up this whole third dimension of potential problems. You never know. But I think that there have been companies like Carvana. Everybody mentioned Carvana, by the way. Everybody I talked to said. And Carvana's been doing used car sales online for a while now, and it's been working pretty well, because I think that just like people don't want to go to the car dealership, they definitely don't want to go to a used car dealership. And maybe even person-to-person online sales, aren't the thing that they're looking for. I talked to one source that said that they were able to sort of like vet the used car first and vet the potential buyer so that they could minimize the potential for scams and things like that. And I think they were able to keep things on the level. I mean, time will tell. Numbers tell the big story as things sort of like ramp up and volume increases.
Yeah. What do you think this is going to lead to longer term then? Because I agree with you. I think more and more consumers are going to want to do as much online as possible. And yet here are dealers with these multi-million-dollar showrooms, in some cases on the high end. I mean, they're veritable Taj Mahals of dealerships.
Well, it's difficult to say where it's going to go. The people that I talk to seem to think that there's a strong possibility that online sales will be the core of future auto sales. But of course, in the future, you could have political considerations, or businesses just want to do things a different way. It's hard to speculate.
Yeah. What led you to do the story in the first place?
Well, we wanted to provide consumers with information about how they could negotiate car purchasing during this time, this particularly challenging time. And I think that by showing what dealers are willing to do now, we've given people a nice little roadmap to follow.
Yeah, I've asked you a lot of questions here. Anything that I'm missing?
Well, I think that it's going to be interesting to look at sales. They've already obviously dropped. I think I read last week they had dropped 38% in March, somewhere in there. And there's a good chance that they won't kind of get rolling again until May. If, we don't know. It just really depends on when things open up. And I think that the big thing people should be looking for based on everyone I talked to, was what kind of deals will shape up, if at all. Because this is a different time. Usually, if there's an economic recession or something like that, you still have production humming along, and there's a backlog of inventory. But right now, production has ceased. So there's no sales and there's no production. So where it will go is anyone's guess. I mean, this is a real, it's a really interesting time, and hopefully not too bad for everybody.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you there. Benjamin Preston, thanks so much for your time on bringing us up to speed with what you found with online sales and free home delivery.